He said he was going to the gas station and never came back. No note. No crash. No goodbye. Just vanished. I raised our daughter alone, held on to hope, even kept a birthday cake in the fridge for 2 years in a row, just in case he walked through the door again. But he never did. Then, 9 years later, I saw him in the background of a photo, smiling, clean-shaven, wearing a wedding ring, and holding a baby. Not our baby. It was April 2nd, 2016. Not even 24 hours after our 5-year wedding anniversary. Ethan had taken our silver Toyota Camry to run out and grab gas and snacks before movie night. Our daughter, Chloe, was coloring in the living room. I was microwaving popcorn. It was just another lazy Saturday. But when 30 minutes passed and he didn't come back, I wasn't worried. Ethan always got distracted. Always too chatty with gas station clerks, or lost in Reddit rabbit holes on his phone. An hour later, I called him. No answer. I texted. You okay? Did you go somewhere else? 2 hours. Then 3. I called again. Still no answer. By midnight, I was pacing the house, calling hospitals. Police said he hadn't been in any accidents. The car wasn't found. At 3:37 a.m., I filed a missing person report. The days blurred together. I called his friends. His job. His parents. No one had heard from him. There were no credit card charges, no signs of foul play. Just silence. He was gone. I replayed every argument in my head. Did I say something? Did I miss something? Was he unhappy? But the truth is, there were no red flags. He was attentive. Loving. Always there. Until he wasn't. 2 weeks later, they found our Camry abandoned behind a boarded-up gas station off Route 41. Keys still in the ignition. No signs of a struggle. No blood. Just an empty car, like a ghost had been driving. And so began the real nightmare. I was 28. Chloe was just 3. And suddenly, I was a single mom, drowning in questions I couldn't answer, not to my parents, not to the police, and worst of all, not to my daughter. For months, I left the porch light on. For years, I kept his voicemail message just to hear his voice. People slowly stopped asking. His name stopped coming up in conversation. Even the police eventually closed the case due to lack of evidence. But I never stopped looking. I kept a folder in my closet labeled, "If he comes back." Inside it were notes, screenshots, sightings, dreams. I updated it every year on April 2nd, the day I started calling the day the sky broke. Chloe grew. She asked fewer questions. But every time she made a birthday wish, it was always the same. I wish Daddy comes home. Then, on a completely normal Wednesday in July, 9 years later, I opened a community blog from a small town in Plano, Texas. There had been a local charity event, and someone had posted photos of attendees. I wasn't even sure why I clicked. But in the third photo, blurry, background, holding a toddler. There he was. Ethan. Or someone who looked exactly like him. Clean cut. smiling, wearing khakis. And next to him, a woman. Beautiful. Laughing. Holding his hand. I zoomed in so hard the pixels broke apart. But I knew that smile. The dimples. The birthmark on his wrist. It was him. Alive. Not dead. Not kidnapped. Just living a brand new life, like we never existed. Purple circle. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in front of my laptop, going deeper into that blog post, zooming and unzooming, refreshing the page like it might change, like his face might disappear and prove me wrong. But it didn't. It was him. Ethan. My husband. The man who vanished 9 years ago and never looked back. Alive. Happy. Holding a baby. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Chloe. Not even my therapist. Because if I was wrong, if it was just some lookalike with the same eyes, the same posture, the same damn smile, I wasn't going to drag everyone back into this hell. But if I was right, then I needed to see it with my own eyes. The next day, I booked a flight to Texas. 2 nights. 1 backpack. I told Chloe I had a work retreat. She barely looked up from her phone. I cried in the airport bathroom, gripping the sink like it might save me from drowning. I didn't know what I was about to walk into. I just knew I had to walk in. Plano, Texas. July 12th. The blog photo was taken at a local park during a weekend event called Families in the Field, a charity for military spouses and veterans. So I started there. I showed up at 10 a.m., pretending to be a volunteer from out of town. No one questioned me. People were friendly, warm. Too warm. And then I saw him. In real life. Not a photo. Not a ghost. Not a memory. He was tossing a ball with a little boy, maybe 4 years old, with curls just like Chloe had when she was that age. The boy called him Dad. And beside them, the same woman from the photo. Holding a baby. Laughing. Wearing a wedding ring. I stood frozen. Watching them live this perfect little lie of a life. I pulled out my phone and snapped 3 photos. Zoomed in. Date stamped. Proof. Then I walked away before I did something irrational. Like scream. Or cry. Or collapse. Back at the motel, I started digging. Facebook. LinkedIn. Local records. His name was different now, Ethan Reed. But the face? Same. He owned a small business. Landscaping. No criminal record. No bankruptcy. No signs of someone who was missing. He had a wife. 2 kids. And a house in a cul-de-sac with a white picket fence like a damn Pinterest board. No one knew he used to be Ethan Carter from California. Husband to me. Father to Chloe. I stared at my screen, shaking. The rage wasn't loud. It wasn't even fiery. It was quiet. Like a switch flipped inside me. And all I could think was, you don't get to vanish from my life and rewrite your own like we never existed. You don't get to abandon us and live like you're the hero in someone else's story. So I made a decision. I stayed one more day. And I watched. I followed him, not in a creepy, stalker way. Just enough. I watched him hold doors open, kiss his wife on the forehead, take the trash out like a model suburban husband. And each time he laughed, I wondered how many times that same laugh used to echo in our house. How many times Chloe cried for him at night while he built this new life. That night, I opened my laptop and typed the first sentence of an email. Ethan Carter, or should I say Ethan Reed, I saw you today. I didn't send it. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Chloe. She was 12 now. Old enough to understand. Old enough to ask. Why didn't he want me? And I didn't have that answer. But he did. And whether he wanted to or not, he was going to give it. I flew home the next morning. I hugged Chloe longer than usual. She pulled away like any 12-year-old would. But she smiled after. She had no idea her life was about to change. I waited a week before I sent the email. I kept it short. Direct. Attached the photos. No threats. No accusations. Just truth. I saw you in Plano. I know about your wife. Your new family. You disappeared from our lives 9 years ago. Chloe is 12 now. She deserves answers. You have 48 hours to reply before I contact your wife. Don't test me. I hit send and closed the laptop. Then I waited. Purple circle. I didn't expect him to reply. Not really. Part of me thought he'd ghost again, disappear like he did 9 years ago. Pretend I didn't exist. But exactly 17 hours after I sent the email, there it was. Subject: please don't contact her. I hovered over it. Heart pounding. Mouth dry. Then I clicked. Ava. I knew this day would come. That was the first line. My real name. Not some "who is this?" or "you got the wrong guy." He knew. He'd always known. You must hate me. I deserve that. I don't know how to explain what I did in a way that would ever make it right, but I'll try. I kept reading, line by line, hands trembling. He claimed he had a breakdown. Said that around the time he disappeared, he was struggling mentally, emotionally. Said he felt trapped in a life he hadn't built for himself. That he'd been faking happiness for years. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man I saw. It wasn't your fault. Or Chloe's. I just panicked. He said he drove until he ran out of gas. Then kept going. Changed his name. Started over. Found someone who didn't know who he used to be. And then the kicker. I always thought I'd come back. At some point. But the longer I stayed away, the harder it got. And then you showed up. I sat back in my chair, numb. That was it? That's your reason for vanishing? For letting your daughter grow up thinking you were dead? For making me feel like I wasn't enough? You were just overwhelmed? I wrote back, and this time, I didn't hold back. You walked out on a toddler. You let me grieve you. You let Chloe cry herself to sleep. You didn't just run, you abandoned us. And now you want me to keep your secret? You don't deserve silence. You deserve consequences. He replied within the hour. Please, don't tell her. My wife doesn't know anything. My kids, they're innocent. Just, let me explain to Chloe. Please. And that's when something shifted in me. Because as much as I wanted to ruin him, to blow up his shiny new world, this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about Chloe. She needed closure. Not a scandal. So I gave him one option. Come clean. Face her. Or I will. We agreed to meet. Neutral location. No surprises. No kids. Just us and the truth. 2 days later, in a quiet coffee shop near LA, I sat across from the man I once promised forever to, the man who left me standing in our living room with popcorn going cold and a child asking, "Where's Daddy?" He looked older. Softer. But not broken. And that made me angrier than I expected. He started with the usual. I'm sorry. I was young. Stupid. Selfish. I stopped him. This isn't for me. You don't owe me an apology. You owe Chloe a conversation. He nodded. Said he wanted to tell her in person. Asked me to arrange it. I said I'd talk to her. But she'd make that choice. When I told Chloe, she didn't cry. She just stared at me. Silent. Still. Then said, "So he's alive." I nodded. She picked at her sleeve, thinking. Processing. Did he ask about me? Yes, I said. He wants to meet. But only if you want to. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then. Okay. I want to ask him one question. Purple circle. The meeting was set. Neutral ground, a small, private room at a local community center in San Diego. No press. No drama. Just 2 chairs, a long table, and the weight of almost a decade of silence. Chloe didn't wear anything special. Just jeans, a hoodie, and that guarded expression she'd learned to perfect by the time she was 6. She asked me to wait outside the room. So I did. But I stood close enough to hear, just in case. He walked in first. Nervous. Sweating. She didn't flinch. Didn't run to him. Didn't cry. Just stared. Like she was meeting a stranger. Because she was. He tried to speak. Voice cracked. Hi. Chloe. She nodded. Nothing more. He sat. She stayed standing. You wanted to meet, she said calmly. I have one question. He looked up. Hopeful. Anything. She didn't blink. When you left us, did you ever think about me? Not why he left. Not where he went. Just that. A daughter's question to the man who vanished from her bedtime stories. And for a full 10 seconds, he didn't answer. His eyes filled. And then, finally. Every day, he said, voice barely audible. I thought about you every single day. But I was too ashamed. Too afraid. And by the time I realized what I'd done, I didn't think I deserved to come back. Chloe nodded. Still no tears. Okay. She turned to leave. He stood. Wait, Chloe, please. I want to be in your life. If you'll let me. She paused at the door. You were supposed to be in my life. You made a new one without even checking if I was alive. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. You chose to disappear. I get to choose now. She walked out. And just like that, it was over. Not with screams. Not with drama. Just a daughter reclaiming her power and refusing to let a ghost rewrite her story. We went out for ice cream after. She didn't want to talk about it. She just wanted chocolate chip and extra sprinkles. So I didn't push. But as we sat there, I looked at her, this strong, smart, brave 12-year-old girl, and I realized something. He hadn't just missed 9 years. He'd missed her. Her first word. Her first step. Her first heartbreak. He could never get those back. And no apology, no letter, no meeting could change that. But Chloe? She was just getting started. Small Blue Diamond, based on a collection of true accounts blended into fictional storytelling for emotional impact. Play button. But the day I saw him holding another child, I knew it was time to end the lie. Speech balloon. If someone walked away from your life without warning, would you ever let them back in? Drop your thoughts. Chloe's story hit different. Subscribe for more emotional stories like this broken heart. Would you like to start working on the next?